Imagine hiking through a dense, silent forest, miles from civilization, only to stumble upon a massive, rusted iron cylinder rising out of the earth like a tombstone. It shouldn't be there. But what's terrifying isn't the structure itself, it's the voices echoing from inside. This is exactly what happened to a man named Kevin and his parents during a remote getaway. What started as a peaceful morning hike turned into a rescue mission that none of them would ever forget. But before we descend into the dark, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We uncover the world's strangest stories, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. For 28-year-old Kevin, this trip was supposed to be a reset button. Burnt out from work, he accepted his parents, Bob and Julia's, offer for a weekend at a remote cabin deep in the wilderness. No cell service, no emails, just the quiet hum of nature. On the first morning, Kevin woke before dawn. The air was crisp, and the world was bathed in a pale blue twilight. Leaving his parents asleep, he geared up, marked his starting point on his handheld GPS, and stepped out into the unknown. He wandered aimlessly, enjoying the crunch of leaves under his boots. But 20 minutes in, the scenery changed. The trees thinned out, giving way to a dense, overgrown clearing. That's when he saw it. It was massive. A cylindrical, iron monolith rising about 15 feet into the air, its surface scarred by rust and peeling paint. It looked industrial, out of place, and ancient. It was too big to be farm equipment, too strange to be a vehicle. Driven by curiosity, Kevin circled the object until he found a jagged hole in the metal plating. He peered into the darkness. "Hello," he shouted. His voice rang out, metallic and hollow. He hesitated, checking his surroundings. Total silence. Steeling himself, he climbed through the breach. Inside, he found himself standing on a metal grate within a vast dome. It felt like the belly of a beast. He was about to leave when a sound stopped him cold. Help. It was faint. A moan? A ghost? A trick of the wind? Kevin froze. The sound came again, vibrating from deep beneath his feet. Panic flared in his chest. He didn't investigate further. Not alone. He scrambled back out of the hole and sprinted toward the cabin. He burst through the front door, startling Bob and Julia over their morning coffee. "Kevin? What is it?" Julia asked, sensing the genuine fear in her son's eyes. "You need to come with me," Kevin gasped, wiping sweat from his brow. "There's something out there, and I think someone is trapped inside it." Bob set down his mug and raised an eyebrow. "Kevin, slow down. You think someone's trapped? In the middle of nowhere? Are you sure it wasn't just an animal or the wind playing tricks?" "Dad, I know what I heard," Kevin insisted, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "It was a voice, a human voice. Please, we have to check." The conviction in his son's eyes left no room for further argument. Bob and Julia exchanged a glance, then threw on their boots and followed Kevin back into the thicket. Kevin moved with urgency, ignoring the beauty of the morning sun, his eyes glued to his GPS tracker. When they finally broke through the brush and the rusty giant loomed over them, his parents stood paralyzed. "My God," Bob whispered, all skepticism draining from his face. "What is this thing?" "The structure isn't the problem," Kevin said, pointing to the jagged hole. "It's what's underneath." They climbed inside the dome. Kevin signaled for quiet. They stood in the gloom, listening to the wind whistle through the cracks. Then it happened. A drawn-out, desperate cry echoed up from the floor. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Julia gasped, clutching Bob's arm. "That's a person." "Oh my God, that's a person." Kevin pointed to a heavy industrial hatch in the center of the floor. It was slightly ajar, but immensely heavy. Together, the family heaved the iron cover open, revealing a vertical shaft plunging into total darkness. A rusted ladder disappeared into the abyss. "We hear you," Kevin shouted down the shaft. "We're coming down." But Kevin paused. He looked at the heavy hatch, then at the darkness below. His mind raced. If they went down and that door fell shut, they would be sealed in a concrete tomb. Thinking quickly, Kevin grabbed a thick hardwood log from outside the dome and wedged it firmly into the hinge mechanism. He tested it. It held. That single decision would be the most important move of the entire trip. One by one, they descended. The air grew cold and smelled of wet earth and stagnant water. When they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a concrete corridor. This wasn't just a machine, it was a bunker, likely a relic of the Cold War, buried and forgotten. They moved through the complex, their flashlights sweeping over rotting bunk beds, rusted ventilation pipes, and military crates crumbling to dust. The atmosphere was oppressive. Every footstep echoed like a gunshot. "Hello," Bob called out. "Here, we're here." The voices were louder now, frantic. They followed the sound through a maze of twisting hallways until they saw a flickering orange glow spilling from a doorway at the end of a long tunnel. What Kevin and his family found in that room would stay with them for the rest of their lives. They entered a large mechanical room. In the center, a small fire burned, fed by smashed wooden chairs. Huddled around it were four people, dirty, gaunt, and hollow-eyed. As Kevin and his parents stepped into the light, the four strangers rose unsteadily to their feet, their cracked lips trembling with disbelief. Then, they broke down. They weren't ghosts. They were hikers, just like Kevin. Through tears of relief, they explained their nightmare. 9 days ago, they had found the bunker. Driven by the same curiosity, they had climbed down the hatch to explore. But they made a fatal mistake. They didn't prop the door. A gust of wind, or perhaps just gravity, had slammed the heavy hatch shut above them. It had no handle on the inside. They were entombed. For 9 agonizing days, they survived in the dark. They drank water that trickled down the concrete walls, filtering it through their shirts, a desperate measure that left them battling stomach cramps and dehydration. They rationed the few protein bars they had in their backpacks and burned old furniture to keep the hypothermia at bay. They had screamed until their voices were raw, praying that someone, anyone, would walk by. Looking at them now, Kevin could see the toll it had taken. Their skin was pale and papery. Their hands trembled, and 2 of them could barely stand without support. They were alive, but just barely. "We have a way out," Kevin assured them. "Follow me." The group moved slowly, the weakest hikers supported by Bob and Julia as they retraced their steps through the concrete tomb. When they reached the ladder, Kevin looked up. The log he had wedged in the door was still there, holding the heavy iron hatch open, the sliver of bright, beautiful daylight pouring through. They climbed out one by one. As the 4 rescued hikers collapsed onto the forest floor, breathing in the fresh, sweet air, they looked at Kevin not just as a fellow hiker, but as a savior. Back at the cabin, Bob used the emergency satellite phone to call for help. Within hours, a rescue helicopter landed in a nearby clearing. Paramedics rushed the 4 hikers to the nearest hospital, where they were treated for severe dehydration, malnutrition, and early signs of hypothermia. All 4 made a full recovery, though they would later say the psychological scars took much longer to heal. Local authorities sealed off the bunker site and launched an investigation into the abandoned structure. Believed to be a forgotten Cold War-era missile silo, warning signs were posted, and plans were made to permanently secure the entrance. The forest is a place of peace, but it demands respect. That rusted cylinder remains out there, now marked and sealed a silent monument to the past. But for 2 families, it will always be a reminder. Curiosity can lead you into the dark, but it's preparation and a simple wooden log that brings you back to the light. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story of survival, hit that like button and let us know in the comments. Would you have entered that bunker? And have you ever found something in the woods that didn't belong? We'd love to hear your stories. Stay safe and see you in the next one.